Yeah. Okay. Well, we're gonna see what happens because I just turned on stadium mode. Okay. Um. No, there should be audio. All right. Well, let's try. That's fine.
I hear you coming out of the stream.
Oh,
Are you in studio
transitioning.
mode?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
in studio mode. Well, now we're transitioning. So
Yeah.
there you go.
There we go. Are we live?
Jay says, can hear you, but not intro music. Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
what's up with that. I think I have to relink the source. So
Okay. All right. Let me turn it down so I don't get you'll get feedback.
well, hello, welcome to Waking Up. And I know it says Pep is going solo, and he will be here in a few minutes because I've got to mom. But welcome to Waking Up. I have to set him up at least until I get back. So I am Arugs, and this is my co-host Sean, aka Pep. And I am going to do the disclaimer because God knows he doesn't like to do it.
It'll take me half an hour.
Yeah, he'll take him a half an hour and he'll do it on purpose so that he doesn't have to talk a lot about shit. So that is what he does. So here we go. Here, hello, we're waking up, and this is our trauma, our podcast about our trauma and our shit. That's pretty much the best way to put it. So here on Waking Up, we are not here to bash anyone's faith or religion or put down anybody's mental health experience. We think that faith and religion are beautiful things when done in a mentally and emotionally healthy manner. We also acknowledge that everybody's mental health journey is different and that their experiences and their healing is all different. And with that being said, we are not trained professionals. Please do not think that we are trained professionals or that we have it all figured out, because we don't. We definitely don't. We are just two trauma triscuits on the internet, just trying to share with people what we're going through, what we're doing. We have no certifications. This is just all of our opinions, all of our experiences. It is not to be taken with any type of, Arugs and Pep said, no, dude, no, don't come at us because we are just as fucked up as everyone else. We just like to talk about it on the internet because why not? But if you do need mental health professionals, you do need actual ones that are both certified and have all of their licensures for that. We do have some links and resources that we can give to you that will help you get the help that you need. All you have to do is contact us at NerdMomAce. I also have an email at nerdmomace@gmail. So if you don't do the Discord, whatever, you can also email us as well. So with that, Sean and I both grew up Southern Baptist. And for those of you who don't know, we grew up in the Carolinas, and that is the buckle of the Bible Belt, right? Dead center, Billy Graham territory. Super, well, now I would say super, like it used to be, think super conservative, but I don't even know anymore at this point. Like, conservatism has sort of spread everywhere. So, but back in the day, it used to be the buckle of the Bible Belt, and it is a conservative denomination of the Christian faith, and yeah, and that is where we grew up. So we talk about our traumas and we do that shit. So, what are you talking about today, Pep?
As you could probably imagine, I have a list.
course you do.
Of course, I have a list. Yeah, so I was thinking about what I'm going to talk today. I've got several things I'm going to talk about today. Probably it's going to bleed one into another. Yeah.
You gonna tell people what you're talking about today, or are you just gonna say I have a list? Okay, that's great. That's like what? Are you
sorry.
just? Hello, Eric. How are you?
Hey,
I know we didn't go. We were together because Pep was here last weekend, but we ended up not streaming last week. So, but hello, we have been busy. I have been so busy. November and December, just it's a lot.
They're crazy times.
They are crazy times.
So I'm gonna be talking about some of the stuff that I've been dealing with lately and talking about in therapy. So things like honesty with other people and myself.
Are you going to be honest, or are you going to just talk about being honest?
I'm gonna be honest. I mean, it's
did you hear that in his voice? Did you hear that in his voice? I'm gonna be honest.
I'm gonna be honest.
Ish.
Yes.
Ish.
No.
It's fine.
What better way to tell if I'm making progress than by talking about being honest? Am I honest about talking about being honest?
Because I'll call your shit out on it, even though I'll be listening.
No,
I'm not gonna let you tank my fucking podcast. I'm not gonna let you do that.
Our podcast.
Oh, our podcast, that when I said, hey, I'm going to need you to go solo, you're like, oh, so no podcast today because you were afraid you were going to run out of things to say? Our podcast?
You realize you're stealing my thunder, right? You realize this is stuff I was going to talk about. Yes, but absolutely. When you said, so when Aruk said, hey, I need you to run solo today. We'll start the stream and then I got to go take it solo. Oh, the anxiety, the immediate spike of, oh my God, I can't do this. Oh my God, no, this is just not going to happen. That's what hit me right away. And I'm just sitting there staring at the phone, feeling very, very anxious. And then we talked about it and you're like, well, you're not comfortable with it. That's fine. I'll let everybody know. And you're like, I like that you said, I'm going to be honest with the community. I'm going to tell them exactly why we're not going live today. And I interpret that as not as a thing to like criticize you, but just simply to be honest.
Well, yeah, because if you weren't going to stream, I was still going to go live long enough to tell people, hey, I know we didn't stream last week, and like Sean and I both talked about it. We're like, we didn't want to go 2 weeks without, talking to you guys. But just FYI, like I've got to go drop my kid off. Like it was right at this birthday is like right at our stream time, and I have to. Yeah. I know, Calvino, right? I'm counting on you, Calvino. You got to keep him going.
She's looking to the rest of y'all.
I am looking to y'all. But I was like, okay, I'll tell them. But I'm also going to tell them that you don't feel comfortable going solo. And you are apprehensive because you don't feel like you have a lot to talk about. I'm going to say that. I'm not going to lie to them. I mean, we know that, Calvino. We know. And apparently even Chat GPT knows. So, like, we've just.
Oh my God, Chat GPT has really done a number.
But then he got a little apprehensive about that.
Well, I was typing that before you sent your message about I'm gonna tell everyone exactly what I'm gonna be honest with the community about what we're doing. I was actually typing the message. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it.
It depends on who you are. For me, actually, it's easier for me to go solo. I love you, Sean, but I prefer to go solo. I prefer solo. Just because of the way my train of consciousness goes. I am actually a better solo streamer than I am a group co. I mean, I'm great either way, but I mean, I am, but. Yeah, I know it sounds. You know what? No, we're not doing that. I'm working on that in therapy. But I am great. I am better Solo. My solo
Uh,
streams are just because I don't get interrupted, because I don't have to stop, and then like,
mhm,
and for me, because of the way I process and the way I communicate, I'm a talker. So it's easier
mhm.
for me. For Sean, he is not. He is not one of those. He is one of those. He likes feeding off of people, and we stream with a lot of people like that, and that's okay. It's just two
Mhm.
different types of comfort levels and two different. But I mean, I was like, he didn't want to go solo, and I'm like, you literally have a solo stream. He's like, but I don't talk all the time. I'm like, I wanted to go. But that's horseshit because you do talk all the time. You just have something to do while you're doing it, so you're not paying attention.
Yes.
I'm like, okay.
Yes. That and you're absolutely correct. That's what and I was thinking about that. Whenever the times that I do go solo are like when I do my Lego stream or when I game and I have something to occupy my hands. I have something to occupy, when I stream Legos, I talk, but it's not, I have something to occupy. So this is a different beast. And yeah, this made me very nervous, uncomfortable. Absolutely. Um, but as we were talking about it, I decided I'm afraid. I'm afraid to do this. I'm scared to do this. I'm anxious about it because one things I'm afraid of is running out of something to say, running out of things to say. Now, people that know me and have heard me talk, sometimes I can just talk on and on and on, and they're like, "You should just stop." Um,
See, and that's why I
some
need you,
hands,
Calvino.
only
That's
hands
why
go
I
out there.
need you
There you
right
go.
there.
See,
See, to keep
yeah.
me, I need you guys to help keep him going for the next 30 to 45 minutes while I run my kid to this birthday party. So,
Hmm.
I mean, I'll be in the
Yeah.
chat listening, so don't think I won't be commenting.
Oh, she will. Oh, yeah. She'll absolutely be commenting. That's. um. So yeah, I was scared to do it, and I decided I'm. Thanksgiving. I appreciate the encouragement. Uh, I realized that I'm always going to be scared of doing this. I'm always going to have this fear if I don't deal with the fear. I mean, it's not like I'm going from never streaming to streaming by myself. It's not. I'm just going from streaming by myself with Legos or a game to streaming by myself just talking.
Okay, Pep
That's not a
Pep, you're on your own
what?
now. I'll see you in a
Oh,
little bit.
okay. Oh God. Oh
Okay,
Lord,
I'll see you in
save
about
us. Heaven
45
help us. Okay.
minutes. All
All
right.
right. You
I'll,
gonna switch me by myself? Oh, I'm
yeah,
by myself. Oh my
you are
God.
by yourself. Like he can see me on, so right still
Yeah.
right now, but I
But
am gonna
I have you up.
go.
So
All
all
right.
right.
Bye, everyone.
Arugs has left the building. This is all Pep Pep all the time. In case you ever wanted it, or if you did, and here it is. Pep Pep. So as I was saying, I was talking about we're texting about doing the show, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. I live for most of my life, for as long as I remember, I've lived through I've dealt with a lot of fear, and most of the time, um, a lot of my life, I have given into that, um, and so I have done stuff because I've been afraid to do it, afraid for different reasons. And I was thinking about okay, going solo, and I'm like, yeah, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of running out of things to say. That's happens whether it's in groups or whether it's like one on one. That's one of the fears that I have is I'm just gonna, run out of things to say and it's gonna be completely awkward. So I feel the need to fill the silence, fill the void. And so I'm like, you know what? As afraid as I am of doing this, I'm always going to be afraid of this if I don't try it, if I don't actually do it. And it's gonna go the way it's gonna go. So bravery is not the absence of fear. Bravery is doing something in spite of the fear. So here I am being brave. Yeah. So it's a lot. I'm anxious right now. I mean, you can see I came prepared with my big old emotional support mug. And it will probably make quite a lot of appearances. So um yeah, so fear. Let's talk about fear for once. Oh, Bray, yes, Bray Pep Pep. I am doing best to do that. It is definitely a lot of anxiety here. But you know what? You guys, I love you guys. I love the community. Thanks, Shifty. You got this. Thank you. But you guys are a safe space, and I appreciate that. Thanks. I appreciate you allowing me and Arugs to do this every week and joining in on the conversation and watching. So, fear, yeah. Uh, fear. The fear for me is it's a pretty it starts. I would say it starts. It's part of a pretty nasty cycle for me. Um, and the one I've been working on a lot lately is fear of being around of other people, which is not quite as simple as that, like just being around people. Um, it's a fear of it's the reason like Roogs and Jay tell me to touch grass. I'm in my house all the time, work at home. So I'm in my house a lot, and I'm not around people a lot. I live alone. Um, and so there's actually a lot of anxiety about me going out and doing something with people. Um, and that's something that I've been working on in therapy for actually quite a while now. And I thought I was doing pretty well, and then um, one weekend I convinced myself that I was doing great, and then it turns out that nope, that was me convincing myself it wasn't actually. I'd made progress, but then I'd taken a step back, which does happen. Progress isn't always straightforward. Sometimes when you're on your journeys aren't always straightforward. Sometimes there's a step back, and I've got to give myself grace when that happens. That's one thing my therapist tells me a lot. Is to give myself grace. I'm making progress. Things sometimes it happens. Sometimes you take a step back, take a BJJ. You will get plenty of time around people. That's what I hear. I hear a lot of laundry folding with people in them. So so I took I I've been doing as a weekly or a bi-weekly tabletop, a bi-weekly board game meetup, and it's not always linear. Yes, that's right. And so, which I love board games. Oh my god, I love playing board games. I've got a ton of them, and sitting right off to the side. And I haven't been able to chance to play with them in a lot. So I was like, I need to go out and meet people. And what's best way to do it is to something I'm interested in. So like board games. So I did it in the before times, the pre-COVID and the before times. So I was like, I'm gonna do it now. And I mean, just every step of that process. What games I got? I got a ton of games. I say a ton of games. I got Firefly, Dead of Winter, Sheriff of Nottingham, a lot of those kinds of games. The Cure, Would You Rather. I've got some party games, but I also got a lot of tabletop. So I can go into the exact specific games later. Like I can give you guys a better list, but so I have I have some short games, I have some long games. But just like every step of the way, like finding a group, joining a group, going up on Meetup and finding a group, and like uh, submitting a request for the group. Like each step of that process for me um, is difficult. Was difficult, and like for some people, that's not a problem for them. That's easy. They just go up, they click the button, they fill out. Like some people don't have a problem with that. That's not me though. Hobbyist board games. Okay. Yeah, we should definitely swap titles. See what we got. Yeah. So every step of the way is part of my journey and is helping me to progress. And so signing up, going to the so I signed up months ago. I went to a couple of them, um, and I was doing okay. Spent a couple hours. Like there was so much anxiety for me, um, that I go for a couple hours. I played like one or two games, and then I'd leave. It was for me. It was like therapist calls it immersion therapy, and kind of just dip my toe in. And the entire time, there's a lot of anxiety there. So it's not like I went, I'm good. It's getting used to that. Um, Getting used to dealing with the fears, and dealing with the anxiety that comes with it. So I'd go, um, and then I'd go for a couple hours, come back, and then next time I'd go stay a little bit longer, and come back. And then it was a couple weeks ago where I had it was a Saturday. It was the day of the group, and I needed to. And so I was like, it's like it starts at 3 o'clock. So I was like, I'm gonna go. And then I just started to go, maybe I'll go. It went from like, yeah, I'm going to go to maybe I'll go. And at that point, that's one of the things I'm learning about my how my brain works, where I'm at with and the way my brain works is that when I start allowing the maybes, like if I say I'm gonna go, I say focus. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. I see myself go. I visualize myself going. I keep focused on that. It's when I allow my brain to go, maybe. As soon as that maybe comes in and like I give maybe some weight. No, I will tell myself this is where I talk about being honest with myself. As soon as I give that maybe some weight, it takes over. And it goes, and so now it's like, well, I'll probably go. We'll see. And the longer I allow that to happen, the longer that maybe goes, the more that maybe is going to turn into a no. And looking back at it, at the past, the history of it, I recognize that now. But whereas before it just something that happened. Now I go, yeah, there it is. Um, I feel that I hit the maybe button. All the bets. Yes, see, right, exactly. Um, so like, and this happened yesterday. So there was another. Again, it's biweekly, so we had a board game yesterday, and so one of the hardest part for me is the morning. When I wake up, the morning is a really telltale sign for me because I wake up and it's like, especially if I know there's an activity for that day. I wake up on Saturday, in this case, the board game meetup, and I immediately feel, oh God, I've got the thing today. I've got that meetup today. And it's at that point where I'm like, if I say maybe at that point, forget it. I'm gonna slide from maybe to no over the next couple hours. Therapists have pointed out, like, I'm so used to having that, waking up and having that choice, that idea of something is going to happen today. There's some choice I got to make today, and I'm practicing just saying just yes, yes. Start at least giving myself a chance at starting a yes. Um, and then doing things, whatever steps I need to take to keep that as a yes instead of sliding into a maybe. So yesterday, as time went on, through the morning, I kept that yes, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna look forward to it, and I'm gonna see some people I hadn't seen in a couple weeks, and I'm gonna play some board games. It's gonna be a fun Saturday. Um, so I'm gonna go. And so I kept reminding myself, visualizing myself, it's gonna yes, it is a yes. It's not, there's no maybe, it is a yes. And so when it got closer to the time for me to leave, I continued pushing myself through that, which is, I grabbed a couple games off the shelf, threw them in a bag. I prepped. I did the prepping. I figured out what I'm gonna wear. Like, I didn't give myself the opportunity for a maybe. Um, and I thought, going back to a couple weeks ago, where I thought, I didn't made the comment to my therapist. I made great progress on this, getting out of the house, and I feel good about this. We don't really need to. I don't think I really need to get into that. It was actually when I was at the point where I was switching therapists. I was telling my new therapist this. I'm like, I don't think we need to really worry about that. Because I'm good. I think I'm good with that. I should have known when I said, yeah, I think I'm good with it, that something would hit. So then that Saturday, going back a couple weeks after, it was like the Saturday after that session. I said, it was Saturday for a board game meetup, and I started in the morning going yes, and then I thought about all the stuff that I needed to do that day. Um, and I was like, oh, I need to decorate, and I need to do this, and I need to clean the house, and I need to, and I started throwing things out, like reasons why I shouldn't go to the meetup. So I quickly moved into a maybe. And now I recognize, like, okay, that and of course it hit maybe, and of course you can guess, did I go or not go? I absolutely didn't go. I was talking to my therapist about this, and I was like, I thought I was good, And then I made excuses. I began making excuses. And that's one thing that I'm trying to work on. That it's a tough realization for me is I can rationalize just about anything, especially to myself. That's where the honesty part comes in. Because am I making an excuse or is this a valid reason? Is there something that was happening at that time that kept me from going to the board game event? No. Were the things that I needed to accomplish that day? Yes. Is it possible to do both today? Is it possible to clean the house and decorate and do all the chores? Yeah, it's possible to do both today. But I didn't give myself that opportunity. I didn't think that. I didn't go, yeah, I could. I immediately went to, nah, you know what? I'm just not going to go to the board game group. I got all this stuff to do. I could have done that afterwards. I could have done that night. I could have shifted some of it to Sunday, but I didn't. I made excuses because the anxiety was still there. Every time, every other Saturday, there's still the anxiety of, am I going to go? That's why I have to. That's why I'm taking steps to keep myself in the yes instead of slipping to the maybe. So I gave myself excuses, and it didn't go well. Because here's where I mentioned the cycle a little bit, when I first started talking about this. There was a thing that I wanted to do. That is so you, yeah. I so the cycle. There's a thing I want to do because I do enjoy board games and I do want to go. There is a part of me that absolutely wants to go. Ooh, cool! I'm gonna hang out with people because I am. Although I often identify as an introvert, I'm a lot more ambivert. And in some ways, I probably lean towards extrovert actually. Anyone that knows me from college, people that know me from college would know. Rugs knew me from college, so I really wanted to go, but I made excuses for why not to. And deep down, even though I wasn't admitting it to myself at that moment, deep down I knew they were excuses because I got caught in the cycle because the cycle occurred. If Yeah, yes, if you it's a conscious choice. Kevin, it is for me. It probably sounds like it might be for you. It's a conscious choice. I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to do the thing. I'm not going to just sit here. I'm actually going to. It's an action. It's a conscious action. So here's where I realized it was what made me realize was they were excuses and not valid reasons. Because if it's a valid reason, I have this other thing that I have to attend at this time or during part of this time. I would have attended. I would have done the other thing. I wouldn't gone to the board game. We wouldn't be talking about this. But that's not what happened. I did all my cleaning and all my chores and all that stuff, and I didn't take nearly as long as I thought it would. And then I find myself in the negative, the uncomfortable emotion cycle, the very uncomfortable cycle of the emotions. So I'm sitting at home, didn't go to the board game, did what I needed to do, didn't have anything else planned. And I was sitting in the house by myself, and I began to feel guilt. That's the next step in my cycle. When I don't do the thing that I want to do, but I choose not to do because I give into the fear, I give into the anxiety. Hey, Asta. So Asta, if you just joined, it is Pep Solo Day. Rugs had to, as parenting, Rugs had to do some parenting stuff. So she has stepped away. She'll be back, I think, probably closer to the end. But it is all me today, all Pep, or mostly Pep, not all Pep. So I'm talking about the uncomfortable emotions and being honest with myself. So I wanted to do the thing. Yes. Rugs reminded us she is still here. Yeah, she's just not on the stream. The uncomfortable. So when there's a thing I wanted to do, and I should have done it, there was not a valid reason not to do it. I just gave in to the anxiety and the fear. Um, is the guilt follows. That's a telltale sign that I was just making excuses and I didn't do it. You're getting the yes, the full pepperoni. Yes, Cavino. And so I'm sitting on my couch. And I begin feeling guilty because then they start. It kind of hits me that I could have done this stuff later. I should have gone. I wanted to go. I'm not gonna have another chance to go for 2 weeks. I realized that I gave in, that I made excuses, and I didn't feel. I allowed myself. I made the choice to not do this because of the anxiety. Um, and I just start feeling guilty, and that guilt really sets in. It sets in hard. I'm not going to be able to do this again for 2 weeks. Um, and my life, I've dealt with a lot of guilt and shame my entire life. It's big part of the religious trauma is guilt, the guilt, and then the guilt becomes shame. So that is a big part of my life. So when guilt it tends to hit really hard. And so I begin sitting. So I'm sitting in that guilt. Um, and then instead of accepting that, and this is how I feel. This is how I feel. This is why I feel it. This is the choices that I made. Having bad thoughts for a while, and it makes me more depressed to a cycle that's always hits when it's December. Yeah, that is a big thing. Especially a lot of the seasonal depression can really hit hard this time of year, especially if there's something else going on and the seasonal depression kicks in. Yeah, this is a very tough time of year for a lot of people. And that's me included. I have some. This is difficult for me because of family drama and stuff. Um, so I start dealing with a lot of the guilt. Then the cycle progresses from guilt to helplessness. And this one hits just as hard. So I feel guilty for not doing it, and then I begin feeling helpless because I didn't. Because I don't feel like I can fix it. I don't feel like I can. Oh, I did it again. This hit really bad before I started working on this. This was almost a daily thing, several times a week. Um, I start feeling helpless. Ooh, my headphone just died. It's real because there's no other sound. Um, Let me just crank it back up. So I start feeling helpless. There we go. Um, I feel helpless. There's like this despair, helplessness. Gonna make myself a hot cocoa. Oh, that sounds fantastic. I have my Dunkin' Donuts coffee with peppermint mocha creamer and my emotional support mug because of course. I start feeling helpless. Start feeling helpless that I can't change this. I can't change this behavior. So instead of accepting it and deciding just accepting it and this is uncomfortable. I understand this is happening. No, I know why this happens, and I can make better choices next time. Um, I start feeling helpless that I can't change it. Oh, and that is such an awful feeling that I am this way and I'm always going to be this way and I just can't do anything about it. I become a victim. I become my own victim there. A victim to myself that I just it's just too much. I can't do it. Then that if I'm not careful, if I don't do something right then to head that off and start using my tools, it gets worse. And so if I sit in that helplessness, then it starts going into I'm a bad person, nobody loves me, I'm not good enough. It just spirals. That's where my spirals can really hit me when I start feeling helpless. So um that's what happened to me a couple weeks ago. That's when I realized, ooh, I am not. I have, yeah, I got these things to work on, and that putting myself out there, that's not as I had wasn't as far along as I thought. It was still something. It was still something that I needed to actively work on. Not it was still something that I couldn't just go, okay, check the box and I'm done. Because I love marking stuff off the list. That is, I can't just mark that off the list and say I'm done. So, um, so I went this past weekend. I went yesterday, um, and that was and it had a great time. Stayed longer. I stayed much longer than I normally do. Met some people, met some other people, got to know some other people, and it was a great it was a great thing. And I feel after I do that, and then all that other stuff that happens, all that guilt and helplessness doesn't come around because I did the thing that I wanted to do. And so the cycle, I'm not in that cycle because I didn't put myself in there. I made choices to not to avoid that. So, um, but again, that's not a one and done. It's whether it's every 2 weeks with this or it's doing something else because that it happens a lot. Pretty much any time that I need to leave the house, um, it hits. Yeah, I'm peopling. Oh man, and just going to the event isn't. Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate that. Just going to the event isn't that's not getting out of the house. It is a massive hurdle. It is not the only hurdle in that process, but it is a massive hurdle getting myself out. Once I get myself out of the door, it's usually easier for me to continue along and people. Getting out of the house for me is probably the biggest hurdle I have. Like I said, I live alone. I work from home, so there's nothing that just gets me out of the house innately each day, like going to an office. So, but yeah, so it's something I still absolutely still need to work on, and not allow myself the excuses to understand. Yeah, that's an excuse. And we're not gonna, I'm making excuses because, I'm giving into the anxiety. I'm giving into the fear. Um, and it's okay to be afraid. It's what you do with that, when you feel it. So, and being honest with myself, that that's what I'm feeling. That's what I'm feeling right now. This is why I'm feeling it. And allowing myself to feel it. Because that's the difference between the my life of intellectualization and being healthy is accepting that I feel it and allowing myself to feel it. So because if I intellectualize it, it's a thought becomes a thought experiment and it removes the emotion, whereas one accepts the emotion. So, um, yeah. So being honest with myself. Honesty, honesty itself just has been a difficult road for me, and I really I wish that weren't the case, but it is. It is the case. Um, I honesty has been honestly been a struggle, and I mean, uh, it really came to a head recently too. So it is. I'm the golden child. I'll start with this. So I'm the golden child. Talked about this before. I'm the perfect child. I have to do no wrong. So I can't. If I do wrong, it breaks the golden facade. So it's so a lot of my mental space is taken up with how do I how do I not break that facade? How do I not break that being golden? Because if I'm not perfect, what good am I? If I'm not perfect, what are people going to think of me? So instead of being honest with people and allowing myself to be fallible, people know I'm fallible. I just try to pretend that I'm not. So I'm not being honest with myself. Um, I try to maintain that golden image, that perfection. And so I'm lying to myself, and I will find myself doing that. I find I find myself doing uh the degrees and again I told you I said earlier I can rationalize anything. I find myself doing the degrees. um, where like I'm not lying, but I'm not really telling the truth either. It's like, you know, lie by omission, or what I begin like splitting hairs or caveating. Oh, I drive Aruj crazy with this. It's exhausting. I know that it is exhausting when I start for other people when I start doing this. Um, I'm not wrong. I may not be entirely right, but I'm not wrong. And I'm so desperate to prove that I'm not wrong about something. I'm so desperate to prove that um, my argument has merit. Um, I caveating stuff. So I don't give a lot of times I don't give a direct answer. And for people that are direct and ask direct questions and want direct answers, n- me not be giving a direct response I think can be infuriating. It can be really frustrating for people. The half truth that's such a murky it is a murky area, and I kind of became uh, that became such a part of my life. I think a lot of that came from growing up in the church and growing up in the family that I did, being the perfect. My older brother was the rebel, and so my entire identity became going the opposite direction where my older brother was the rebel, always, uh, always fought with the parents, always disregarded the rules. I think I began identifying. I think my parents. Uh, I picked up on the frustration. I picked up on how that made my parents feel, and so in order for me to help assuade that, I feel like I became responsible for their emotions, which probably is where the codependence comes from. Um, I took it upon myself to be the golden child and to be perfect. But as I grew up and, you know, teenager, you're trying to figure out who you are, and having all of the church stuff being just high control, I began lying. I began adjusting the truth, or deviating the half truths, the partial, whatever you want to call it. I began lying. Um and it became God, it became like second nature. Um and I still find I still find myself doing there's one specific thing. I still find myself doing it, and I have to be really careful. Like when I find myself doing it, it's one of those like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh, I am doing this. Why? No, we're not going that direction. We're in the middle of golden child and the scapegoat. Ooh, that sounds like it's a really tough place to be. Um, Caught in the middle. Wow. Um, yeah. So anyone that doesn't isn't familiar with those, there's some good information about the different types of child, the way you grow up, the way you're treated or seen by your parents. Here's one of the things that I did a lot when I was younger, and I still find myself as an adult every once in a while it comes up, and I have to identify it immediately when it does. Um, is I would start creating elaborate stories to avoid getting in trouble or avoid sometimes it was big, sometimes it was small, but like okay, so let's say I was going to be late for curfew when I was a kid, or when I was a teenager. I was going to be a little late for curfew. I would create some elaborate story in my head. It wasn't just something small. It was like if you've ever seen The Big Bang Theory, Sheldon, whenever Sheldon tells a lie, it's not just a simple lie. He begins creating this massive backstory. And then, well, if what if they question that, or what if they question that, and it just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. It's kind of what happens in my head as I begin creating this massive story to explain why I shouldn't be in trouble. Whether it's parents, whether it's a friend, I was supposed to go somewhere, be somewhere. I would just start creating these elaborate stories in my head. And I wish I could say it was big stuff. I wish I could say it was always trying to get me out of trouble for something big, but sometimes it was just really small stuff. just if I was going to be late somewhere, I would just start creating these stories. This happened, that happened. I got pulled over. I got a flat tire. And then okay, well, what if they asked this? It just became massive and elaborate, and it it became untenable and took up so much of my mental like a lot. The truth would have been is straightforward. This is why I'm late. This is why this happened. But I use so much mental capacity, so much brain power trying to make this stuff up. It was exhausting for me. So I still find every once in a while as an adult, I will find myself doing that. I'm like, no, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to start creating these elaborate stories. If I'm just going to tell the truth. If I'm going to be late somewhere, if someone if I gotta tell someone something, I'm gonna try to be truthful. I'm gonna do my best to be truthful. So I've gotten better about that, not creating these type of stories. However, what I struggle with a lot now, um, is the slight deviations, what degrees of truth, or where I'm not creating elaborate stories. I'm just not being direct. Um, about it, or I'm trying to well, I may not be right, but I'm not wrong. Kind of like splitting hairs, is what some people would call it. I often call it caveats, and well, it's the truth, but there's this, but there's this, except for this. Um, and so, and I got called out on it pretty hard. Aruk's called me out on it pretty hard recently. Um, and it's something that that I'm working on. It's something I'm working on as part of my journey, but I honestly have not made a lot of progress on it. Um, I haven't, because I'm desperate to. I still find myself desperate to maintain the golden child, or at least not get in trouble, or not have someone look bad at me, or not. I'm trying to control what people think of me, and so I want to protect that protector in me comes out a lot. Protector in me has a big influence, and so like I want to tell the truth, but that protector's like, well, no, if you tell the truth, this is going to happen. And there's that protector, that part of me, um, that's going to go, well, last time you told the truth, last time you said that this thing happened, or this uncomfortable thing happened. He's going to put you in a timeout. Um, I spend a lot of time thinking. Um, I spend a lot of time thinking, overthinking. I spend a lot of time um coming up, even though I don't come up, I mean, I come up with the elaborate scenarios anymore of like, oh, I got a flat tire, but got pulled over, or this happened, and this person happened, or this. Oh, I'm late because you'll never believe what I saw. But where I do kind of a big filming, I was putting you in timeout. I mean, yeah, yeah, you could try, you could try. Um, is my now where a lot of my overthinking, where a lot of it comes into play, is um, trying to control the narrative, or trying to control the conversation, trying to control what person thinks of me, trying to manipulate what they the situation, or them, or what they think. Is that an invitation? I don't know. You got that BJJ skills, so I don't think it matters how big I am. You know what? We'll maybe I'll give you a shot. Maybe I'll give you a shot. So I think we've a reason I've talked about this on the before is if I need to communicate something, Maybe someone that said something that bothered me, that hurt me. I feel a certain way about something. I have an emotional response. Um, I will plan out that conversation. I will plan out everything I expect in that conversation. I will create. That's where the elaborate scenarios go in are now. That's where it most often happens. Um, I will go into those. Well, I'll say this, they'll say this, then I'll respond with this, and they'll respond with that, and it just kind of branches out, and it goes. Interestingly enough, the conversation rarely, rarely, pretty close. I would say, I don't want to say never, but I'm at least going to say pretty rarely. Um, maybe pivot enough. Yeah. um, Goes into a positive place. Like I'm gonna respond in this positive way, and they're gonna respond in that positive way, and then I'm gonna respond in this positive way. It's never like the plan, the way I plan it out, it never goes in a positive direction. Like, oh, this is all gonna be said, and we're gonna get this out, and we're gonna understand, and we're gonna validate, and then great, we're gonna come out, and we're gonna be better. We're gonna the friendship's gonna be stronger. No, it always goes into the negative. It's always planning for the negative. It's always planning for I'm gonna say this, and then they're gonna invalidate my feelings. I'm gonna say this, and then they're going to this way that they could respond, um, that I have a problem with. They're gonna get defensive. It's always in a negative way. And so I then begin figuring out how I can. This is me rationalizing. This is not me saying this is what it is. This is me saying this is how I rationalize it. I rationalize it by saying, well, when I say this, I'm not lying. I'm just not saying all of it, or I'm leaving out this part, or I'm just kind of like adjusting, deviating by like a degree, right? I'm not being. So I'd rationalize and I'd convey it. If it became like a chess match, this was really bad in my in my college years. When Arugs and I dated, this is one of the big problems that I had when we were dating in college. Is I saw everything as a chess match. Um, can't terrible or context. Ooh, that was a tough one. Context. Oh yeah. Wow. That was a big argument. Yeah. There's always this, that. Um I what often happens with Rooks and I is she will ask a direct question. And I will come back with if I start the sentence with well, that's never a good sign. um, a lot of chicken from the usually the first sentence gives away my response, which is which for the most part has been some sort of caveat, some sort of it's not degrees. Like it's not a direct hard truth. It's not a she's asking for a yes or no question. She wants a yes or no response. She asks a yes or no question, and my response is not. You watch politicians. It's probably very similar to that, where they're not actually answering the question. They're going around it, or they're again caveating it. There's not. I so rarely give direct answers, hard, true, direct answers. Yes or no, this or that. And that it uh it really just it's not something new, but it's hitting harder. Allow me to add some context to this simple. Yeah, yes, Calvino, that is it. It's like, well, yes, but yes, and like there's always something else to that. If there is even a yes, if there's even a yes or no, there's always some context to it. Yeah. Um, allow me these 5 minutes to answer your yes or no question. Um, and I think I do it to protect. I'm gonna do it to protect myself because I don't want to be wrong. Because if I'm wrong, if I'm wrong or um um I did something, I need to take responsibility for something. Um, it's uncomfortable. And for a lot of my life, I've avoided uncomfortable conversation, or I've avoided uncomfortable conversations because of I've avoided uncomfortable emotions. I squash them, I suppress them, I intellectualize them. I avoid uncomfortable emotions. So um, I don't I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with the conflict, the uncomfortable emotions that arise with the conflict, or and it's especially bad when someone brings a concern to me. Hey, you said this, you did this, and here's how I feel about that. Um, I'm the person that gets that gets defensive. And it's been that's been a big part of my journey is breaking that defensiveness, recognizing it, and then dealing with it. Um, and so I'm just trying to protect myself. I couldn't have done anything wrong, because if I did something wrong, what are they going to think of me? They're not going to like me. They're not going to. No, emotions are the monster under the bed. Yeah. We often add context to the simple because it allows an escape strategy, and often we seek the context in a simple response because we have to know the why to understand or accept. Oh, yes. Well, if they would understand the context, then they would see my answer differently. They would. It's it's trying to control their perception of it. For it is for me. Well, if you just knew the context, if you just understood why, um, the why behind it. Oh, if you just understood why. If you would empathize with me if you understood why. You wouldn't feel so angry with me. If I can get you to empathize with me, then I don't have to deal with the uncomfortable that I did anything wrong. Ooh, looking for an escape strategy. That's a good one. Um, so that's something that I've had in mind a lot this past week is being direct, answering directly. Um, it's really difficult for me to manipulate. Yes, exactly. It's an attempt to manipulate their response, and for me, it's an attempt to manipulate their response because I don't want to be in conflict, or I don't want to be the bad one. I don't want them to look at me a certain way. I don't want them to see me a certain way. I don't want to be responsible for, because it'll. I need. Ooh, I need people to see me in a certain way. Um, I need people to. My self worth is based upon being the golden child. My self worth is based upon being the the golden child, being perfect, being right, being my identity is wrapped. There's things that make up my identity. This is who I am, and when something challenges that, like I'm smart one, I'm funny one, I'm this, I'm that. When something happens, it challenges that. Um, my first thought, my go to is how do I manipulate that? So, yeah, I may have done that, but here's why it doesn't you shouldn't look at it this way. This is why you shouldn't. Ooh, shouldn't. That's a yeah. As Jay said, it's attempt to manipulate their response. Um, and manipulate, that's one that's a hard one I had a hard time with. is the idea of that is manipulation. No, that's not manipulating. I'm not manipulating them. I just want them to respond in a certain. That's manipulation. You can call it what I can explain it whatever way I want to. I've been calling that one. Oh my god, I've been calling that one. I'm not doing this, and then I'm doing this, and then what I say that I'm doing is the exact definition of the thing that I said I wasn't doing. Yeah. So there's being honest with myself, being honest with other people. It is it is difficult for me to do that. It is unfortunately it is a my go-to is often that deviation. It's giving a direct response and letting it be. That's anxiety. Just thinking about that, creates builds some anxiety. Here's my answer and the extra info that makes you the bad guy if you disagree or don't accept my response. Yes, Jay. Ooh, you are hitting hard on this one. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The extra info that makes you the bad guy or you disagree. Yeah. Oh man, when someone brings a concern to you, when someone is trying to be vulnerable with me or express you did this thing and it upset me, to then go, well, okay, so I did do that thing, but of course, and paraphrasing, you did do that thing, but here's why you shouldn't feel bad about it. Here's the rationale. This is that's a nasty one. Um, because when you do that right, when that's the response, when that has been my response, um, yeah, yeah, right, Cavino. It is always I'd say most of my life, creating the truth. Um, it has been it's on the front end. I felt this way. Well, that's not what I meant. It's immediately attempting to manipulate how they feel. You shouldn't feel this way because what, and you don't, those words aren't being said, but that is the message that is being conveyed. Um, and that's been a big part of my journey. Is not doing that. I'm trying because I don't want to be the bad guy. I don't want the conflict. I want the conflict to end, and I want the conflict to end without being the bad guy. Yeah, that's not what I meant as gas. Yeah, that's not what I meant as gaslighting. Doesn't matter. I think you told me that it doesn't matter. Um, Emotions are not wrong. Emotions are emotions. They're not wrong. Um, so yeah, being honest. I think that's where a lot of my focus this past week has been on um, being on being honest with myself a lot. This is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. This is how I'm doing it. Um, oh, we got some best viewers. Speaking of being honest, Calvino fast on the ban button, swinging that ban hammer. Thank you. Um, being um, oh, you deleted it and then Jade. Oh, okay. Kevin had deleted it and then Jay banned it. Yeah, being honest with myself is has been just as difficult because, like I said, when I say something to try to convince other person would try to manipulate their response, I do the same thing with myself. I shouldn't feel this way because that's a big one for me. I shouldn't feel this way because tag team. Yeah. Thanks for tag teaming. Um, being not it's not doing the same thing I'm doing to other people. Um, tag team back again. Oh my god. Not doing the same thing to myself. Being honest with myself that I am and that I am doing this. That this is the behavior. regardless of why. It doesn't matter. And you know, why can help sometimes, but sometimes but I often can get stuck on the why because yeah, I need to know the why. I need to know the why. Um, but regardless of the reason, regardless of where it started, where it came from, why I do it, I do it. Um, I don't have to know the why in order to choose to make different choices, to make better choices, to choose to decide that I'm going to be honest with myself. Um, and this is one of them. One part of being honest with myself is um, I'm trying to that I try to manipulate people. I try to manipulate people and situations because I want to look a certain way. So I'm trying to manipulate everyone around me, and it's hard to it's painful to admit that that's often my go-to. Um, it's easier. Ooh, it's easier to it's e- it's easier for me to do that than it is for me to tell to be truthful, direct, hard truth, direct response, direct truth. It's it's easier for me to go the other direction. It's not easy, but you're doing thanks. Um, yeah, because I like to think of myself as a truthful person. I mean, a lot of people like to think of themselves as a truthful person. But if I'm being honest with myself, I'm not. I'm not truthful with myself, and I'm not truthful with other people. Um, a lot of the time, it's it's like a habit. Like I said, when I was younger, I would easily or I would quickly I would jump to making up these elaborate stories. Or now when there's a potential conflict or something, I make up I plan out these conversations. That's that's like I jump there like this. If I know if there's a conversation that a lot of times that happens when there's a conversation that I need to initiate. When I need to tell someone when it's important for me to convey how I feel about something. Um, I will plan out that conversation a million different ways, and most of the time, when I'm done with planning out the conversation, I end up not having the conversation because I've thought of all the different ways it could go wrong. Um, so it's easier for my brain to pick dishonesty. Even right now, even right now, my instinct, the reason it probably sounds like I am um, pausing, almost stopping between words, is my even as I'm talking right now, my brain is attempting to push me it put towards that protector is trying to push me towards the shift, not being 100% honest. Um, ooh, that's a good point, Arugs. You take away their opportunity to be honest with you. Yeah, you take away their opportunity to be honest with you. You take away their opportunity um to hear you, to understand you, to listen to you, to help, to maybe to improve the situation. You don't want to hear the truth. Ooh, ooh, oh, Arugs. You don't want to hear the truth. I said in therapy. Yes, I don't want to hear the truth, their honesty, because I'm afraid of what that means. Ooh, that's one that came up in therapy recently. I would rather live. Um, I would rather. live with my story than to deal with their truth, their honesty. I would rather live with my story, whatever that story is, than deal with the truth. Than hear the truth and live with it. Accept or live with it, deal with it. Ah, yeah, that's a tough one. That's that's me being honest with myself and being honest with you guys. Um, there are questions I won't ask. There are things I won't say. Um, because I would rather just live with the story that I've
Who should be
created
checking
about
at the front
you know,
door?
the situation, or live with whatever I'm feeling instead of um, instead of the potential, instead of the truth, instead of if I say this somebody did something that upset me, that hurt me, and I bring that up. Hey, this happened. There's potential for them to invalidate, to reject. There's potential for it for them to respond in an unhealthy way, and I would rather just live with it, live with how I feel instead of the potential, instead of the dealing with the emotions that may come from having that conversation. Being honest is like working out. You have to work that muscle if you want it to be stronger. Yes. Yeah, it does. Um, it's being able to know knowing that I can accept whatever the response is without planning everything. Knowing that I can, whatever that response happens to be, that I can deal with it. That it is the truth, and that I can handle, and that I can deal with the truth. Comfortable, uncomfortable. That's difficult for me. It's a difficult part of my journey. Being honest, especially hard honesty. Um, no caveats, no direct answers. It feels so responding directly is so uncomfortable, even when there's not really any stakes in play. There's not really a conflict. Sometimes answering directly feels weird, probably because I rarely do it. Um, yes, sometimes a yes or a no, just simply that. Full stop. Yes or no. Feel isn't comfortable for me. Um, I begin like my brain starts to work. Well, how are they going to respond to that? What are they going to hear? What are they going to when I say that? What are they going to think? Is that sounds yes and no. Responding yes. This happens a lot in text. Saying that just makes me feels uncomfortable. It feels harsh. Responding directly feels harsh to me. Um, it's an rogues.
It is a ruse. Keep going.
So
Can you hear me? Oh, gotcha. All right, keep going.
So, um, yeah, so like especially in text form, that feels harsh to me. It feels uncomfortable. Um, and so I will then like start caveating stuff. And just because it feels, I'm saying this more, I think, for myself than for anything else. just because it feels uncomfortable doesn't mean it's wrong. Just because it feels uncomfortable doesn't mean it's unhealthy. Usually, when I've spent my life doing the unhealthy thing, the healthy thing feels uncomfortable. So even though it may feel uncomfortable to give a direct answer and let it sit out there and have it sit out there, doesn't mean that it's wrong. So yeah. So that's a big it's been a big part of my week. My mental health this week is thinking about honesty, being honest with myself, and being honest with other people. So
Oh no, you got 13 more minutes. I'm just here.
oh, you're just here? Oh,
Mhm.
wait, but oh, fantastic. All right. You're yeah, having your face here is okay.
Oh, look at that. Actually having to practice honesty while looking at somebody.
Have I don't need your sarcasm.
Or my honesty.
Yes. Yeah, having your face here and looking at you while I talk is a little it is uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable.
Oh, look at you practicing.
I am. The other thing about honesty is I will adjust my truth. I will adjust my truth based upon the responses of others.
Then is that truth?
Um, what
Is that truth?
is that truth? Yes.
If you are adjusting your truth based on the
Oh, oh,
response of
oh. Okay,
others, then is
gotcha.
that truth?
I will adjust my. Maybe it's not truth. I will adjust my opinions. I will adjust what I say based upon the responses of others. I think that's probably more accurate. Um, so this happens, and this happens a lot with you, um,
I know.
because your face has subtitles, and I am hyper vigilant to that,
That sounds like something you
or
should
not
work on
hyper.
in therapy.
It absolutely is. So and you guys have seen it because it's happened on this podcast.
It's happening right now.
It is happening right now. Well, no, because I'm not adjusting
It's
what I'm saying.
happening right now.
Okay.
How you're acting, how you're talking. I was watching the entire time, Sean. So I like it is
Oh, that's
literally
okay.
happening right now. The fact that like you are now having to stare me in the face.
Yeah. It's okay. Yeah, it's very uncomfortable. All right, but you know what? I can do I can do the uncomfortable things. Um, thanks, Kevin. Kevin, if you need practice being direct, I got you. I appreciate that. Um, so yeah. Um, that's what I want to practice. That's what I'm going to practice this week, and well, this is what I practice going forward. Is I want to practice being direct responses without caveats. Um, and without sitting in the uncomfortable, allowing myself to sit in the uncomfortable when that happens. Because I run from the uncomfortable. So much of my life, I've run from the uncomfortable.
So how are you going
Um,
to what are you going to do to stop creating your own narrative?
Stop
Because
creating my own.
yes,
What do you mean?
because not hearing somebody else's truth
Hmm.
and how are like there it like I applaud the fact that you want to be direct, and that's great.
Hmm.
But being direct doesn't do you any good if you're still creating their responses, their truth, and your reality. because then you are being truthful, or what you
Mhm.
perceive as truthful and honest, on a narrative that isn't necessarily the truth.
Um, it's when I find myself doing that, when I start to have to plan out those conversations or start to run through that, I have to choose not to. I have to go. That's what I did. That's what happened. That's what I did in the past. That's what I did to protect myself. I don't need to do that. That's not what I'm gonna choose differently. I'm not going to plan whatever the reality is the reality. Whatever the truth is the truth. Um, Planning this thing out, I'm not gonna plan this out. I'm not gonna go down that road. I'm not gonna spend my, let my I'm not I have nothing to protect myself from. I'm just what the conversation is the conversation. It's that overthinking that gets me in trouble. So I'm gonna choose not to do that and redirect my thoughts because I don't need to do that. To plan that thing out, to have those. I'm not gonna manipulate people. I don't want to manipulate people. So I'm going to choose not to allow my brain to go in that direction. Not going to have those thoughts.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, I am what?
You're going to have those thoughts.
I am going to have those thoughts. But I can choose to I can choose to redirect. They're going to start happening. But I can choose not to let them continue out to the point where I normally do. I can
That's true.
choose to go "Hey," I can stop myself. I can identify. I'm going to identify that I'm having these thoughts and I'm feeling this way and go, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to plan that conversation out. I'm going to have the conversation or ask the question or do the thing, but I'm not going to let myself plan that out. I'm going to identify when it does happen. I'm going to identify that it is happening and go, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm not going to let that keep going.
So what happens when it does?
Well, what happens when I let it keep going?
Mhm. The reality is
Um,
having the expectation of I'm just not going to do
mhm,
it is
yeah.
actually a very one set mindset that doesn't allow
Mhm,
for growth. Two, it also does not allow for grace and forgiveness. Three, it doesn't allow
mhm,
for learning. And so,
mhm,
what happens when it does happen? Because it will
yeah.
happen, because you're not
Mhm,
perfect. You're not the golden child. Your first instinct is to lie, manipulate, and gaslight and control
mhm,
situations and people. What's going to
mhm.
happen? That is your literally default setting, and
Yes, it is.
you have to change that. So what happens when you do it?
Because I'm not perfect and it will happen. I'm going to give myself grace for it happening because like I said, there's always times
What does
at
that
some point
mean?
it will happen.
You keep saying
What
giving
does that mean?
yourself grain.
Oh,
What does that mean?
accepting that it did happen, that it doesn't make me a bad person, that it doesn't mean I'm less worthy. It doesn't mean that I am a failure. It just means that it happened and accepting that it did happen. And I can't change that it happened. It did happen. I can't change that it did. And we're and going forward, just because it happened one time doesn't mean it's going to continue to happen, or that I've failed, or that I'm not making progress. I gotta leave myself room for that to happen. But it doesn't mean it doesn't mean it will continue. It has to continue to happen. It doesn't mean that. Okay, so I didn't. So this time, this time it got away from me. This time it did, but next time it doesn't have to. That's allowing for there to be mistakes, allowing for myself to not be perfect, accepting that I'm not perfect, and that it may happen, and not feeling guilty for it happening, not feeling shame for it happening.
What happens when you feel guilty and you feel the shame?
Ooh, that's when we get into the meta. Um, that's it, that's when it's then instead of dealing with the first part, we then have to deal with that layer, the emotions about the emotions. And so it's the same, it's kind of the same thing, but it's dealing with the shame and it's accepting that I did feel guilt and I do feel shame. Um and accepting that that happened, but that doesn't make me a bad person, doesn't make me broken, doesn't make me a failure. Whatever level the emotions are, it's I'm still worthy. I'm still lovable. I'm still a person. I'm still a human. I'm still a good human. And I felt this way. I accept it. Can't change it. It's observing it instead of it's observing that happened without judging me myself for it happening.
So, what are you then doing to replace that in your head?
Replace the judging.
Oh, just replace the negative
Um,
reinforcement that you aren't
oh,
worthy or that you're not lovable or you're not good enough. Because there's what I appreciate your honesty right now, but you're talking in the
mhm,
negative. You're talking in the, well, if when I do this or if I do this and
mhm,
I do this, and it's the negative reinforcement of what you believe about yourself. What are you doing to as a positive reinforcement to change that not mindset? Because
mhm,
the like in my therapy, it's constant, like you are feeding that negative belief about yourself. So what are you
mhm.
doing to replace that experience with that? What
Like
positive
replacing.
what positive
Mhm.
things are you going to be doing to reinforce the positive parts?
Um, well, I think part of it's shifting from I'm not a bad person to I am a good person.
Then how are you going to
Um,
reinforce that? Because just saying it isn't enough.
mhm.
You have to retrain your brain. You have to have positive experiences about that and positive
Oh, yeah,
reinforcement.
I have to replace the negative interactions or the negative experiences that I have with positive ones. Because that's why the protector steps out so much is because, well, this has happened. Um, it's having that conversation or asking that question. It's doing the thing that I've been trying to avoid. Doing the thing that I've been avoiding so much is doing the opposite action. Um, Having the conversation, asking the question, answering the directly, um, even regardless of how uncomfortable it feels, it's doing the thing that I'm trying to avoid doing. Um, and then responding to it, whatever that response is, whatever that truth is, um, putting it out there because I'm afraid I'm afraid to have those because of what might happen. Um,
What might happen?
Well, the fear of being I have a bias towards the negative. Therapist love pointing that out several times. I have a bias, as
Hence the
and you
reason I
just did.
just pointed
Yeah,
that out.
you just did. Yeah, I have a bias towards negative. So I look at the bad that could happen. I look at the uncomfortable emotions, or I look at the well, they could. A lot of it is invalidating. A lot of the times, that's where I go. Whenever I'm going to say something, it's going to be flipped back on me. And I've had a lot of that. I've had a lot of that in my past. It's my fault. It's my problem that I felt this way. I shouldn't, people telling me, people validating my own emotions. And so what I end up doing is I invalidate my own emotions before they can invalidate my own emotions. So that's what I fear. You know, if they're just going to invalidate my emotions, then what's the point of even bringing it up? It's the fear of being gaslit. Like I think so much about what to say, and then that they're going to respond, and I'm going to then shut down. I'm going to then I'm going to get defensive, or I'm going to shut down, or I'm going to respond in an unhealthy way. And then it's just going to devolve.
But
And it's going
that's,
to be it's going
but
to
you just said you had a fear of being gaslit, but that's different than what you just described.
well, it's two different things. One is, that didn't happen. Well, that's not what it's I've people the person questioning what
My
I
question
experienced.
for you is this. Are you
Mhm.
being gaslit, or are they telling you that it didn't happen because it's not the narrative that you created?
Mhm.
That's a question.
Oh, I think both have happened. Yeah. I'm bad to create a narrative, and that is a common thing that I do, is create a narrative, create a story. And then I create that story because I don't want to ask the question.
Or
Or
you
say the
don't,
thing.
you want to be the victim.
Or I want to be the victim, so I create the narrative. Um but I think gaslighting, I think that with gaslighting, I think that's where the other person's intention comes into play.
No, it doesn't.
What, you don't think so?
No.
Because I actually did have this conversation with my therapist about, how do I know whether I'm being gaslit, or we just have two different recollections of a situation.
Okay. What'd she say?
This was actually my therapist before her, and he said, "Well, that's where you have to." He said, that's a really difficult thing to try to figure out." And he said a lot of it comes down to what are they attempting to do? What is their intention behind it? Is there a pattern of it? Um, are they attempting to convince you that you are wrong and that you shouldn't feel a certain way? Um, are they trying to tell you that you're wrong and that you're the problem, or are they just or are they simply telling you, this is my recollection, or this is what it looked like from my side, or this is how I felt during that time. One is trying to replace my reality or tell me why mine is wrong, and one is simply saying, you have that mine is this is my perspective
Mm-hmm.
from their side.
And
One is malicious and one is not.
do you ask them
Do I ask them what?
what their intention is?
Have I before? No.
Have you since?
Um, no.
So how do you know?
Well, I won't know without asking.
So how do you know?
Well,
Well,
the conversation
that's
has been.
that's the whole point. That's the whole point. It's like you're creating, and you're afraid of being gaslit, and you're afraid of being all of this stuff,
Yes.
but you instantly just assume that they're gaslighting you without asking. So you're creating your own narrative, which is
Yes.
dishonest to yourself and to the other
Yes.
person.
Yes.
So if this was your former therapist, that's been what, a month, 2?
Yeah.
So why are you hurting your own feelings?
because it's what I'm used to. Um,
That's the
because
I mean, I'm used to being beaten and all this stuff. That
um,
doesn't mean that I go around going, punch me in the face. Why are you hurting your own feelings?
why?
Mhm.
Because I hmm. I was gonna say because I find it I find it easier. I'd rather deal with my own emotions than um
The
the
reality?
potential the reality. Yeah.
You would
So I
rather
said
deal
earlier,
with
I would
the
rather
painful narrative that you're the bad person, that they're the villain, that you're the victim. You would rather deal with all the bad shit than reality? You want
that's
to
what I
hurt?
said before you.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
that's what I
I
said.
heard.
That's
I'm just asking
yeah.
you why? Why would you want to hurt your own feelings?
Because I don't want to deal with the other.
Why?
I am it's easier for me to it's
Hurt?
easier for me to yeah, it's because it's the hurt I know. The anxiety that I know. The it's it I'm used because I'm used to it.
But you want to grow and you want to change. So why would you not change
Now
and grow?
I do now. I'm explaining why this has been an issue for me. But I do want to. That's what I'm trying to change. I'm trying to not sit with this narrative, the story that I create.
But
And instead,
the what I'm trying to get you to see is none of
mhm,
us want to see you hurt. You hurt yourself. Why would you hurt yourself? It's emotional cutting. It's emotional
mhm,
masochism. Why are you so like just because it's what you know doesn't mean that that's reality. And as I'm trying to see you, that's you. If you want to be honest with yourself, you
mhm,
are hurting yourself. No one else is
mhm,
hurting you. And you're making
mhm.
that thing. And I'm just wondering, you're talking about the protector. What are you protecting yourself from? How are you protecting yourself when you are the person that is hurting yourself?
The protection is from
The call's coming from outside the house.
yes, yes.
Because
If
you've talked a
I
lot about of external forces. And I'm just trying
Mhm,
to like, what are
yeah.
you protecting yourself from when you are the person that is the thing that's hurting yourself? When you're the person, when you're the voices, when that's the thing, and what are you protecting yourself from? Because none of us, I know for a fact, not like I don't want to see you hurt.
Mhm,
I don't want to see you upset. I don't want to gaslight you. I just want you to be honest. It's one of those, why would you feel like you wouldn't want somebody to do the things that you do to yourself
mhm,
to somebody you care about? So why are you doing it to yourself? Which is a question my therapist often asks me.
mm. That's a good question.
What are you protecting? Because that's you saying it's because you're protecting yourself. You lie and manipulate and
Yes.
protect yourself, but you're lying and
Mhm.
manipulating yourself. So what are you protecting yourself from? Who are you protecting? Is it really a protector or is it really a manipulator and a controller?
Well, I'm gonna skip over that. Ooh, that is a good question. So if I do the thing that I'm trying to avoid doing, that I'm avoiding doing,
Mhm.
um, I I really think my fear is I'm just kind of talking this out. My fear is the invalidation, the fear of what's interesting is it's often the fear of the things that I have a history of doing.
But you're doing it to yourself.
Defense.
Nobody else is doing it to
Yeah.
you.
So if I have a conversation, the potential to be invalidated, to feel less than, to feel unworthy, um, and then to feel helpless.
But what happens when you approach the conversation, that person validates you and doesn't hurt you, but you still invalidate yourself and you still hurt yourself and you still go around and do all that things? You were the one doing that.
Yeah.
So again, what are
Yes.
you
Yeah.
protecting
Yeah.
yourself from?
I'm doing to my I am doing the thing to myself that I'm afraid other people are going to do to me. I'm hurting myself instead of letting other people hurt me. I think
And is that you acting out of a created narrative? So then that's you hurting yourself based on a lie that you told yourself? They're going to hurt me, so I'm going to do it now. So it's not the truth. So you're hurting yourself based on an assumption that they're going to hurt you, even though there's no evidence saying
yes.
that they're going to hurt you.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
So isn't it more important to be honest with yourself than it is other people? Don't you think that that was actually going to make a correction first?
To be honest with myself,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, don't really understand the question. I mean, yeah, I need to be honest with myself that's what I'm doing.
It's not just about that's what you're doing, that just being honest with yourself. Because you're hurting yourself.
Oh, mm-hmm.
You can't hurt me as well as I can hurt myself, so I'll do it so I can control and it's easier to fix how
Yes.
I do it. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't hurt as much if I do it to myself than if someone else does it to me.
I think it's I'm asking this question is because it's one of those you hurt yourself based on the delusion and lie and assumption about another person, even though there's no evidence that they have done or will do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then how can you be honest with that other person if you're not being honest with yourself? Because then if you're hurting yourself and you are making choices based on this illusion that you've created, mm-hmm. and then you're like, oh well, this is how I feel. This is my truth, but it's not really the truth because then you have created that emotion and that mm-hmm. thought process and that thing. So it's not really the truth. It is the truth that you created. And then that person is then responding.
It's a story that I tell.
Yeah. Right. And then that person mm-hmm. is responding to the narrative that is presented to them because you say it's your truth, but it's not really truth.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you're right. Yeah, I agree with that.
What are you protecting yourself from? And why won't you let other people love you?
I think it's because I don't feel worthy of it.
And there's the core belief of what you need to work on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I am only worthy.
Good luck, Calvino. Good luck. I've tried.
Urge has been trying to do it for a long time.
Yeah, I've given up. He's got to figure it out himself. He's got to let me love him. Otherwise, I'm done. Like if you can launch some positivity and fruits over that fucking wall, then you go right ahead. I'll be on the other side in my little hut with I'll just be on the other side of the wall in my hut and when he feels ready, he can knock down his own wall.
It's why it's difficult for me to truly accept compliments. I've learned to hear them and allow them to be spoken without negating them, but I don't truly accept them.
Is that love or is that just it's just a kinky? Is that I mean, Calvin, we
Yeah,
gotta
that looks. It's yeah. It sounds a little bit like that. Yeah. Um, I'm only worthy. My worth is based upon external factors.
who's telling you
I do
that?
not. Oh, that's what I'm telling myself. So I tell myself.
So what are you
I'm
doing to
worth.
replace that? What
I,
positive
by
experiences are you doing to replace that?
positive experiences,
Mhm.
other than telling myself the positive,
Yeah, because you have to have the
because that's
positive experiences to replace the negative ones that people have told you.
um by reaching out to people and by being honest with people and being vulnerable with people and allowing them to respond in whatever way they're going to respond. Um, yeah.
So are you going to accept it though? Because I feel like people have been honest with you for a long time and you just don't accept it.
Hmm.
Because being having just letting people be honest with you and you being honest isn't
Hmm.
enough.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they've done. It's not the first time. Um, but
I feel like your famous phrase that you often I think that you don't even realize that you live by is the one from
mhm,
Mythbusters is I reject your
reject
reality and
your reality and
substitute my own.
substitute my own.
And it's like it doesn't matter what anybody tells you. No matter how honest it is, whether it's positive or negative, like it doesn't matter. You're just going to substitute your own. So what is the point of like if you're going to be honest, then you got to stop substituting your own reality. As someone with
Hmm.
BPD whose reality is fucked up and it's always like and it's having and that trauma and the CPTSD and all of that stuff, it's
Hmm.
hard. It's hard. It's hard because your reality is your reality and perception is reality. And yes, 100%. And
Hmm.
having to weed through what exactly is reality because your reality is your reality. And that's that you can't like that's your truth.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with it being your truth. But just because that's your truth doesn't mean that somebody's lying to you or manipulating you or gaslighting you when they present
Hmm.
their truth.
Hmm.
I ask again, what
Yeah.
are you protecting yourself from?
Hey, Nev.
I know.
Um, thought I answered that. Um,
What monster are you protecting yourself from?
I thought I answered that. Not being worthy. That was the mantra that says I'm not worthy of love.
So, how is hurting yourself make you worthy?
It doesn't. It makes it harder to. It's the opposite of that. It's it's me trying to fill that by doing the thing that is antithetical to it. Um, I'm trying to feel worthy by manipulating people into responding a certain way, so I feel worthy, but I never feel worthy. It's an endless loop.
There you go. I knew you'd get there eventually.
Thanks. Mm. I should write this down.
You are writing it down. Your keyboard is not quiet. You're not. Here's the thing, Pep. You're a fucking terrible liar, and you think that you fucking are. You think like Jay and I were talking about this, and you think it's the tone of your voice, it's how you word things, it's your facial expressions. You're not the only one that's motherfucking hypervigilant. You are the worst liar, the worst. But you keep doing it, and we're like, okay. And then you're like, I should write this down. I'm like, really? Really? You should. Yeah, you should.
My keyboard doesn't sound that loud. I guess it's loud enough. Maybe I need to fix my mic. That's
oh, okay.
Well, no. Okay.
Yeah, like that's the thing. It's like we like
I'm not a good
busted. He was busted.
I'm not. I recognize that. Yet I still do it. That's what I'm stopping.
Yeah, yet you still do it. Or like you're like the dog who's eating the steak off the counter, and you're like, "Did you do it?" No. Tail wagging.
No,
I love you. I love you. You're cute. Don't look at me.
No. I fell back in default.
Damn, Pepe. No, he did not. Again, we were talking about how like.
I'm being honest. I am admitting that. Yeah, I try to do that. We can take notes later.
It's fine. It's on it. No, just like, and that's also a big thing. That is a big thing, is that you have to get like, it's the issue with what I had to deal with, and what you are dealing with now, is that you are like, I gotta tell the truth, just period, end of story. But with that, it's such a big thing that you don't realize it is a big thing. It sounds simple, but it is not. And if you take that and go, I'm just going to tell the truth. I'm not going to manipulate. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do this. And it's like, I'm going to lose 50 pounds and I'm going to stop eating this, and I'm going to exercise for 2 hours a day, and I'm going to do all these things. And you're doing all these things, and the success rate of that is very low. Why is it very low? Because you are expecting, with all of this, you're taking on this big thing. And when the reality is you need to take, and I've had to do this myself, and my therapist has had to slow me down and be like, okay, well, all that other stuff, yes, we do need to address that, but let's choose one small achievable thing. And I think what your expectations are, you're just not going to do this. You're not going to do that. You're not going to do whatever. But I think that the reality is just like this whole keyboard thing. Okay, so I mean, but he's not gonna, like, my expectation of him is not that he's going to do this magical thing overnight where he's going to undo 45 years.
Mr. Honesty.
Like, yeah, he's going to do 45 years of a learned protective response. I know that. So I'm going to call him out on his shit, but I'm not going to judge him for it. I'm not going to be like, see what you did? See, like, I thought you just said, no, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm just going to be like, you're doing it. Because the only way, just like with working out, you have to have accountability. Hey, you're doing the thing. And the whole point of having an accountability in your friend group or your family or whatever is then that's why it's very, very important for you to be able to accept that accountability and that truth, their truth. They're not trying to hurt you. They're not trying to shame you. They are trying to hold you accountable. And that's different than trying to shame you. But if you are creating this narrative that they're trying to shame you and make you feel bad, then the accountability doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Pep's not gonna. Pep, I'm very proud of you today. Like, you were very, very honest, and I did listen to the whole thing, and you were very truthful and honest, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate you sharing, and I'm proud of you for doing it solo. See, you said you were gonna run out of things to say in 50 minutes.
I've hit like 2 out of the 10 things I have on my list.
Fucker, I know you. Fuck it. Like, whatever. But in the reality is that you're not going to do all of this overnight. which is why I'm trying to point out to you where, like, what are the things, what is the one thing that you really
What
need to start on? And it's
what
got to
it,
be achievable. Don't say, I'm
yes.
going to run a marathon and then the first day try to run the 13 miles. It's not going to work. Or the 26
very much.
miles. With 26
Yeah.
miles. But
Yeah.
it's not going to
What
work.
is
So what is the walk a minute, 1 minute, walk a minute, run a minute
what,
thing that you're going to work on? Like, that's what my therapist does, because in
Yeah.
that you're having to replace and you're relearning a skill.
Yeah, and mine does it same. My former therapist was big on that. My new therapist I've only had a couple sessions with. My former therapist, yeah, he was like, okay, so what's the goal for this week? Okay, now what's the goal? What's like the half goal? What's if what does success look like? Yeah, it's great if you hit your goal, but just because you don't hit your goal doesn't mean you're not successful. So what is it? What does success could look like? If you do this one small step, that's still success. So what is that one? What's that other step that look like?
So what does this look like for you?
Hmm. Um, there's several different things. So that's what I'm like trying to think of which direction. Um, and I don't think there's not a wrong answer there either because they're all important. Um, trying to decide. I tried trying to decide. Like I get paralysis of analysis here.
If there's no wrong answer, why
The
don't you
wrong
just
answer.
choose one?
I think okay. So the one that is coming to mind is direct answers.
And that's a good, achievable goal.
Yes.
Everything else doesn't really matter. I think when you make those things
That's
like the big thing, like, okay, I'm going to do this one thing. And that's like everything else. If I end up manipulating somebody else, if I end up hurting my own feelings, if I end up whatever, that's the thing. That's not the thing you're working on right now.
mhm. Yeah. That's my goal.
Good goal.
Okay. And I know I'm not I know I won't be perfect.
And there you just cursed yourself.
Dang it. Okay. I'm all right.
Because when you say, I know I won't be perfect, that part of you challenges yourself
Tells
to,
me
but yes, I can.
ah, uh, and then we're right back. I see now, Kevin. There's the whole. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I'm just leaving it at that. That is my goal,
Remember
Kevin.
you were talking. Oh, yes, I was listening. That whole maybe part, that right there. You just
Yeah.
added the
Yeah.
maybe
Yes, I
into
did.
your statement.
I did. I did. My goal. My goal is direct answers.
Period. Do not say anything else. Just leave it there.
For anyone that can't see, I just muted my mic.
I can't with you. But I am proud of you. I'm like, look, you had 10 things and you didn't even get to any yet.
Did it? I did. I went solo.
Did?
I did. I did the thing that I was afraid I couldn't do.
Donut, yeah.
Do
Actually,
donuts.
Calvino, actually that is actually something I talk about in my therapy a lot. Because it is there's no like we try to avoid black and white thinking. We do. But in this case, when you are trying to change a behavior,
Mhm.
You either did it or you didn't do it. There's no, well, I tried to do it. I'm trying. No, either you were making the choice or you're not making the choice. And it's that simplification of that, where it's just like, but I'm trying. No, because if you actually were trying, you would have done it.
Mhm.
Can you have done it and it failed? Yes.
Yeah.
And that's different than I'm trying. And so it's one of
That's a good-
those
that's a good
Yoda thing. And my therapist says, I'm like, well, I'm trying to do this. It's like, no, okay,
God,
you're
yeah.
trying, or are you actually doing?
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good perspective. I
It's
like that.
the sometimes you have to just be like, I'm making a choice. That's a choice.
Mhm.
It's not thinking about making the choice. And that, because that's what that is. Thinking about making the choice and not making the choice is still not doing it.
Mhm.
That's trying.
Yeah.
But thinking about
'Cause-
making the choice and actually making the choice is doing. Yep. It's giving yourself an out, regardless.
Giving yourself a maybe.
Right. But what if it goes wrong? Then it goes wrong. What if it goes right?
Yeah. Therapists like to say, so what happens if you don't do it? Like, going to the meetup. What happens if you don't, what if I don't go? Well, then you don't go and we talk about it. We deal with that instead of dealing with this, we deal with that. It's fine. Hey, you don't go, you don't go. We'll talk about it. What if I fail? We'll talk about it.
If it's the best thing that ever happens to you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What if?
And that's what you lose when you talk yourself out of things and you manipulate your own reality. Okay, you keep them from hurting you, but you keep yourself from getting all the good things too. So you can't replace your reality with positive experiences if you're consistently reinforcing the negative to protect yourself. Because you're protecting yourself from the positives too.
Yes. Yep.
Calculated risk.
Mm-hmm.
Pep's done being honest.
No, I'm not.
No?
I was just thinking right then. I think of it like suppressing emotions. When you because I used to do that a lot. When I suppress emotions, the problem with suppressing, like, because I don't want to feel the uncomfortable the emotions. So when I suppress the emotions, when I suppress the negative, I often end up suppressing the positive. Kind of like levels things out. So
Did you just use past tense?
I still do it. Yes, I still do it. Yeah, I still intellectualize. Still happens.
We have used all the honest budget. We have. It's fine.
Yeah,
Honesty is uncomfortable. Honesty is vulnerability.
it is.
Honesty is it's a double-edged sword. In the fact that speaking your truth is very freeing.
Mhm.
It's very freeing, and then on the flip side, it's terrifying because this is your truth. But then what if your truth is wrong? Because it's your truth. But I mean,
Mhm.
it is. I mean, you can stand wrong. Your truth, your reality can be wrong. That's not gaslighting. That is just honesty. And
Mhm.
whether like I for me, it's one of those, this person is doing a certain thing or whatever. And in my reality, my truth is this person doesn't love me or care about me. But
Mhm.
that's my truth, and that is absolutely my truth. But but their truth is they're tired, they're busy, they death in the family, or they got something going on, or they're whatever.
Mhm.
And it's not their truth is different. And then all of a sudden I'm wrong. That person does love me, but they are just, so it's just, it's accepting that truth. And
The
you
truth
can't
versus the story.
control how the other person's going to react to your truth. But you also have
Mhm.
to be willing to accept somebody else's truth.
Mhm.
That not necessarily saying that you have to make it your truth, but you have to be willing to accept that person's truth. They're not out to get you, they're not out to hurt you, they're not out to gaslight you, and their reality does not supersede your own and vice versa. And that's where the difficulty comes in.
Yeah.
Especially when you've spent your entire life taking on somebody else's truth and reality. You can't be an intellectual without intellectualizing. I mean, fair. And Sean is very intellectual. He is very intellectual.
Yeah. That's true. I, I'm uncomfortable in the silence
Why is that?
because I feel the need to fill it.
Why?
I don't know. My therapist asked me the same thing. Um, hmm. I think at times because I feel responsible for. I see silence as bad.
Why?
I see silence as because it's my responsibility to entertain to the other person because I don't want the other person to see me as boring.
Why is boring bad?
I've been probably because it's been used pejoratively in the past.
Boring's not bad because it's not your job to entertain someone else.
I have to remind myself of that.
It's not your job. It's not my job to entertain y'all.
Mhm.
It's not my job to think about you. It's not my job to feel for you. It's not my job. If you think I'm boring, fuck you. You think I'm chaotic? Fuck you too. Not my job. I don't give a shit. It's very freeing. I used to hate silence only because I was worried that in the silence it was used as a manipulation tactic toward me, especially in my childhood. So the
Mhm.
silence meant that I was in trouble. So I would try to fill the silence because if I filled the silence, then I could talk my way in out of trouble, or I could convince somebody, or that it was so.
It's funny when memories suddenly unlock and like, oh, you were talking about that, and I memory immediately unlocked. I used to get the wait until we get home while we're in the car. Did something, fault with the brothers, whatever. Wait till we get home, and then it was followed by silence. If I would try to get out of that delayed punishment by filling the silence, because if I uh
Oh, I can give you shit. I can give you shit, Nev. If you want
if
shit,
that's what
I
you
will
want.
give you shit. I got you,
You
boo
want it
boo.
in a paper bag flaming on your doorstep. Um uh uh I suddenly recall thinking that if I could do something to make them forget about the punishment that was impending, then I wouldn't have then I could, uh if I was funny enough, or if I was nice enough, or I behaved a certain way, if I could fill the void to make them forget and make them not want to deliver that impending punishment.
So the silence is not about your need to entertain. It's your about the silence is unsafe.
I think it's both. I think it can be both, because I do feel the need. I do feel the need to entertain.
Because if you don't entertain and they think that you're boring, then it
Mhm.
is unsafe because
Okay. Yes, you're right. Mhm.
so it's
That
not
makes sense. You're right.
both. It is the same thing.
It is. It fun. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. It is the same thing. Thank
That
you
is,
for.
and see, that is you sitting here going, no, well, it's both. It's trying to, it's the
Well,
same thing.
that's me not understanding. And when you explained, I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. That is the same. So
Oh, Pep
yes.
Pep. What are we going to do with you? You don't even have an answer. You're like, what are we going to do with you?
I do. I mean, my answer is whatever you want, but I mean, it's not really true.
Tell me you're a latent sub without telling me you're a latent sub. It's fine. Tell me I'm wrong.
I think I might have some tendencies.
Okay. We'll let you sit with tendencies. Oh. You okay?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's probably going to be some delayed
Ooh.
onset for use. Oh God. That's scary if Calvino is coming from Calvino. No, there's probably going to be some delayed onset emotional soreness.
AKA, you're going to have a panic attack.
Mm, no, I don't know if I have a panic attack.
Why would it be sore? If your goal is to be honest and you're being honest, why would it be sore? What would be the panic that would cause the soreness?
Oh,
You're right. He did Calvino.
it would be that protector side of me. It would be that voice that keeps coming out, going, no, it's not safe. It's not safe. It's not safe to tell the truth. All that stuff. No, that's not trying to downplay the last 2 hours. That's where it would come from.
I have a question for you, but I'm gonna ask you off air because this is gonna be one that you need to ponder.
Fantastic. All right. Well, let's keep this show rolling.
All right. Well, you did a good job, Pep Pep. Good job. I am proud of you for being your honesty. And look at that. You were so terrified. Look at that positive motherfucking reinforcement that you were terrified you would run out of fucking things to say. And you still have like 8 things left on your goddamn list.
You know what I'd be feeling if I didn't do this? Guilt. I'd be like, I could have done that. I could have done it. I'd feel guilty about it because I know I could have, and I ran from it. So I did it.
Good job.
Thanks.
Good job. All right.
All right.
All
Time to say goodbye.
right. So long. Farewell. Auf Wiedersehen.
Have a great Sunday.
Good night.
Bye.
All right. Bye.